Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dead Unicorn, the tabletop role-playing game club. My name is Corey. I'm here with Sasha and Tarek. We have just finished our beginning troubleshooting guide, and we're now ready to go. And I will cut everything out before this. We're doing Cyberpunk Red. We're going to do a breakdown of this book, and we are starting with the opening story, which is far and away really good. And it like, as you read the book, different chapters will update this story.
The Cyberpunk anime, that's good enough.
And you played the Cyberpunk game, right?
Yeah.
This beginning story is basically a prequel to the Cyberpunk video game, all about Johnny Silverhand.
Oh, that's why I skipped it. I hate that guy.
Oh, well.
She's not a fan of Silverhand.
No.
Not a feel, that style over substance feel of Cyberpunk. It's really good.
By the way, we have there in this book there are these ads and like news spots that kind of try to bring the world to life. So you'll get like the first on this page, what is it? Page 26. You're already starting to get like Ziggurat, connect everything. And there's like ads and articles and stuff. And I adore this when role-playing game books do this.
Yeah, I really like this in the Shadowrun books. They do it more like a bulletin board postings and then ads sometimes. And like, it does really help you to immerse into like what the world is supposed to feel like. And then it's also a blast from the past when you go back to older editions and they have the same kind of thing. And you see how the marketing has changed in world, not like the marketing of the franchise, the game franchise itself, but the marketing of the in-world franchise and how they're trying to get you to like adjust to them. It's interesting. It's a really interesting dichotomy.
What about you, Sasha?
What about the marketing?
The
blurbs?
The fake ads inside the book.
Corey, I read the rule book for the rules. I'm gonna be real. If it's not talking about the rules, I skipped it. I didn't care. It's a big book. I have limited time. I'm not here to look at fake advertisements. I'm here to make profit, Corey.
Of classes to choose from.
Yeah. A lot of roles to choose from. Their usefulness varies dramatically. The ghost got angry. Didn't want to. Nope, that's still not good. Though, I mean, looking at the L5R ladies on my wall is probably even better than just looking at my face. So, you know, you can hear my voice.
Yes.
Look at the ladies. And that's an option. Anyway, the classes, it depends on who your GM is, what your like campaign is going to be, whether these roles are going to be effective for you. But there is the opportunity to like cross class. So if you wanted to start out as like a rocker boy and then take some levels in medias or something, you could do that, which is nice. It's useful when basically once you've chosen your base role, which starts at a little higher level, you can take any role after that with XP and just customize to your heart's content, which is nice about this style of role-playing game. Getting away from level-based systems and into more like spend your XP, choose your skills, customize to your heart's content, that kind of stuff. It's good.
This is rules, Sasha. I'm waiting with bated breath what you got to say about roles.
Okay, I was waiting for my turn. I figured you were gonna reply to Tarek. What's the class that you played?
I was exec.
Yeah. Okay, so I've played in one Cyberpunk Red campaign. So my experience with the classes is limited to the classes that were played by myself and the other characters in that game. What I have to say so far is that exec suffers from the same exact problems that summoner type classes suffer from in every RPG system that I have played, which is that they either the GM doesn't know what to do with them and then they end up bogging down the game, or the GM doesn't know what to do with them and the player is gonna like run wild and do a bunch of crazy shit with extra like people, extra like resources that they have access to. And there's kind of no in between generally what happens. Like if you've ever played like D&D and someone's like playing a knight and they want to have like a retainer, or if you've ever played Pathfinder, quickest way to break Pathfinder is to start taking followers and just break the entire game. So it suffers from that same issue, I think, that a lot of other classes, like a lot of other systems, suffer from when you start adding extra people that a character has access to. But overall, I thought that the classes were designed pretty well, that you could kind of pick any class and be like effective, because it was mostly in the skills that would decide like what you did, like your sub specifications, I guess. It felt like your classes really didn't actually do that much. You just had the same exact, like, oh, you have 2 class skills, and then the rest is all gonna come from your actual skills. And then that's it. You have like your roll ability, and maybe you have like a special class feature, and then that's kind of all you have from your class. And then most of your actual like differences are going to come from how you've stratified your skills and stuff, and what equipment you use, and what cybernetics you have, and then
yeah, that's what I get, is that the roles matter so little that they could have just
really
disappeared for a lot of...
There are 2 roles in this that I think are like the most beneficial to have, period, which is the interface one for netrunners. Given the if you're playing this rules as written, you're going to struggle to do anything like tech-wise in terms of like hacking without that ability, without the interface ability, because that is how you do all of your hacking checks. It's based on that interface ability, and that's how everything's going to work. And then the other one that's I think is super necessary is the tech ability. Even medtech maybe too, because it is a massive difference in healing between doing just first aid and doing surgery on somebody. But you can probably go to a surgeon in game and not have to worry about having one in your party. But going to have a tech person or moto with like, you get a fucking car already that's all souped up and amazing. Those 2 things I think are probably really effective to take, just because they give you things that you would not have otherwise.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
but
The media, everybody else you can represent with just something.
Speaking of medtech also feels like it has some issues, because like outside of taking cryo systems, which actually gives you access to like a lab and like the cryo stuff that you need to like put people in, you don't actually get any equipment. Like the what is it, the like what class was Val playing?
The tech.
No, what was it called? She was a nomad.
It's called
Nomad.
It's called a tech. She was playing a class called tech.
Okay, but I mean, there's the class that gives you access to a vehicle. What's that one?
Nomad.
That's called Nomad.
Nomad. So playing a nomad, you're really good with cars, but it gives you access to a car. You get a car. But if you play a medtech, you don't actually get access to like a place to do surgery and like surgical equipment. Like, so it kind of feels a little dumb. Like, you're still gonna have to find a place that has normal surgeons in it to work in, and they're not just gonna let you, like, unless you like worked something out with a GM, which is like you own your own laboratory where you can go, and then that's only in one place in the world, and if you ever leave it,
in terms of like making it medtech in the game,
it
you're
feels
supposed to be like a Ripper Doc, like if you've played the
but a Ripper Docs need to have their lab and their equipment, and as a
Ripper Doc
kind of
has their space, and then the game usually takes place in one area. Like like I was saying, if you're playing Cyberpunk 2077, the new video game, you can see that there's a bunch of Ripper Docs with a location somewhere in the city, and then the city-based campaign unfolds around it. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a mobile lab, because you have a base of operations to kind of fall.
I guess that's true. Maybe that was just an issue with the campaign we played in specifically.
We were like gallivanting around all of the United States, so there was never a period where you could sit down and be like, let me take over this person's Ripper Doc lab and start running the show that way. Instead, he just gave us like, here are accesses to Ripper Docs in some generic capacity at certain like waypoints of the adventure, which makes being a quote-unquote Ripper Doc yourself a little less useful. You know what I mean?
Well, anyways, that's besides the point. I was just saying.
Okay. Those are kind of good points, but when Tarek's like saying, well, some of the roll abilities are like really good because you need this roll ability to do.
I didn't say really good. I said really necessary.
Yeah, it's necessary,
I didn't say really good. They're just really necessary.
Which to me is weird on its surface. That the only way you can do net running is if you are a certain role, which basically means if that role's not available or nobody took that role, then an entire part of the game is gone.
Yeah, like even for a med tech, you can still do medicine on people and interact. Yeah, you can do first aid, and you can do first aid, but that's usually all you need. You usually don't need. The point is that it's not like there is no healing in the game unless you have a med tech.
If you get injured, you lose a leg. You can't do anything about that.
Can I finish? You still have access to the basic level of that thing, and then there's a specialist that can do it better. But for hacking, there is no such thing. You don't do hacking at any level unless you have the specific skill that comes with
the specific role ability.
You can do basic. So with hacking, you can do basics like security tech, right? Where you go and like do breaking and entering. So like you go and pick a lock on a door, or you like jump onto the electronic spot like panel and overwrite it or whatever and do that. But if you're trying to hack for data or do anything like that, you definitely need to have the interface role ability, which if nobody started with it, you can still take it as a customizable, like spend XP to put a point into that role, even if you didn't start with that role. But you're not going to be as effective or as efficient because all of the hacking rules in the hacking section, right, are based off of that interface skill, and that skill is so low that like you start out with a 4 in that skill, but the dice values that you're trying to hit when you're rolling interface skill rolls are also low, but they're still like 10 to 12, right? So if you have a +1 in that ability, good luck. You got to roll really high, really well on all of your dice rolls in order to do anything effectively. So you either are cut out of that, or you have to pay someone like an NPC to come and do the hacking for you.
We got to move on from this. We really got to move on from this because we're okay. Let us talk about the character creation itself, where like basically you randomly roll you can pick. You can just like look at the list and pick. And there's a lot of cool options about like your personality, where your ethnicity comes from, your clothing style, right? All of these interesting things about your character, and none of them actually really have
ever come up.
Yeah, they don't matter. They don't come up. It's just there without a reason to pursue it. In a lot of other games, you'll see this kind of stuff, but they'll be like, if you resolve this, you get an XP, or if X, Y, or Z happens, you get a bonus to those roles in those circumstances because you're of that ethnicity or that. But here it's all flavor. Everything is it's style without substance.
Mm-hmm.
Which meets the original objective of Cyberpunk at the beginning. This is all cyber.
Bravo.
L5R is like you literally have features that come from these things, and even D&D's like you get like a inspiration point or a hero point if you role play these traits. Blah blah blah.
Way to go, Tarek. Way to just brush that under the rug. Like
no, I'm congratulating you for being self-referential about the core of the game. Which is, they say in the beginning, this is all about style, not substance. You use the term. You use the name of the thing in the thing. I
think we're all agreed about that. This entire character creation system needs more to it. It's like just got a skeleton with no meat on it, and it's kind of not great because of it.
Yeah, it's very convoluted too. These little like flow charts that to get it. Let me write up whatever I want here. I don't need to choose things and roll dice on the list. And
I want to say that, like, I guess, how do I put it? I don't know if this is gonna make sense. So you let me know if this makes sense. Like an overall statement about the character creation. Between the other RPGs that I've played, Cyberpunk feels like there is the least amount of difference between characters. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, characters are the most the same. Like, you got everyone's human, right? So that cuts things out between like different species or races. Then you got everyone's like either got cybernetics or you don't, but the cybernetic options are like they're all same thing, different, slightly different stats. And then everything is just stat and not actually ability. It's just how much stat do you have? There's not a lot of unique abilities. Like we said, the classes are really limited to like you get a very small list of unique abilities, but mostly it's just stat. And
It's
it feels
stat
like
and skill.
a very video gamey like kind of thing where you're just all stat, raw numbers.
Can I point something out here? Reading this Cyberpunk Red book is almost the same as reading the old Cyberpunk book in the 80s. They didn't do shit.
I mean, I think they did some tinkering around the edges.
Yeah.
That I don't think is efficient enough.
Instead of randomly rolling, you can now choose which one option you want for a lot of your things.
Yeah, exactly. And it also, like I was saying before, it suffers from this idea that like if you're completely new to RPGs and Cyberpunk is your first RPG system, then maybe the random rolling, kind of random generation of your character and the life path things would help you to kind of crystallize some ideas about your character. But if you've played any amount of RPGs in the past, you will want to just customize all of this stuff as a background and as a character as you want, and just jump ahead. And then the problem comes in where you're doing the stat distributions of like, oh, I want to do quick and dirty, right? I just want to like random roll lines. And you can do that.
You just hit something that I love is that I don't have to spend 9 hours making a character and like picking this. I can just go, oh, here's just a way that I can go boom, 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 and the character's done.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, that's what I'm saying. There's options to do that to make it super easy to onboard into this game, which is a strength. But then there's also the option of doing the customization, which is also a strength. Like, some people just want to customize their character and don't want to have to take standard loadouts, or they're tired of level-based systems and I don't want to deal with that. I want to be the character I want to be. And they have both options here for you. So there's something in the character creation for everybody, but it still ends up with a kind of bland mishmash.
It's still samey. No matter what you do, it's all still the samey kind of stuff.
There's also like some skills are just way more impactful and valuable than others, and everybody's going to go for those skills.
There is such a thing as too many skills.
You're skipping ahead here, Chick. We were going to talk about skills, but I kind of wanted to finish up character creation.
Okay, let's continue with character creation. It's part of character creation.
Let's talk about all of the like stats you get. You have intelligence, reflexes, dexterity, tech, cool, will, luck, move, body, and empathy. Are there too many? Not enough?
There's a ton. I get why they're trying to split it up into all of these things, but like, is there a real difference between reflexes and dexterity? In
Reflex,
reality,
dexterity, and size did not need to be three separate skills.
Could you merge those together? Same thing with like cool and will.
Yeah.
I feel like those could be merged together.
Int and tech.
Body. Int and tech, yeah, probably. I don't mind move and body being separate, like how fast you can actually move versus how.
Well, combat is so important to this game that cutting up those combat type attributes is a little better instead of consolidating.
And then empathy. Empathy is so luck, move, body, empathy. Got it. Those four, I get it. Fine. The rest of them could be combined into one stat, and you can lower the amount of stats. But I think the reason why they're doing that is because they have this idea that they're gonna like do some weird cross-hatch mathematics that will cross-reference each stat to a specific set of skills. But the skills are so weirdly distributed across them that there's no evenness to it. Which again makes some skills and some attributes way more powerful than others.
So we got Fat Corn online and saying that they think their DM is decent and fills missing characters with guest players once or twice a campaign. That's a cool idea. Have a guest person come in. Here's your character, kind of like a Harming Quest.
Yeah, you could do that. You can also do NPCs of like if you need an NPC, just hire another runner to join your mercenary gang for a little while you do the run, and then off again. They never got to see him again.
Yep.
It's a good way to say like net running is hard and very complicated. So instead of having anybody play it in the game, there'll just be an NPC who does it for you, and then every certain number of turns, the door opens. Or
Sasha, skills go off. I know you're going to say the same thing everybody else is going to say.
There's too many skills.
There's too many skills.
So here's the thing. Too many skills, I guess, is a better problem than not enough skills. And I get why they have so many skills, because if they didn't, you kind of wouldn't have a game to play, because they put the meat of everything your character is into your raw stat. So you need ways to express that stat. Otherwise, you're not going to have any variance in characters and what you can do. But I think they took that a little bit too far. Now, I get the like intentionality of it. And I think if you had like a really good DM, they would still pull in most of the skills and make them, or like all of the skills and make them useful. But the thing is that when there's so many different things that to invest in, imagine your DM is asking for all of the different skills to be used in their campaign. There's still going to be some skills that are just worthless because you're only ever going to get to use them once or twice. And then the player who was like, I want this to be a part of my character. This is how I'm choosing to express my character. Then the person who invested into that thing is like, well, fuck, this didn't come up more than once or twice, maybe even not at all in the entire campaign, and I spent 10 of my points into that when I could have just been better at shooting a gun.
Why did I put so many points into dancing?
So
so it's like you have to have kind of be a little bit meta and be like, well, I know for a fact that these skills are something that GMs never use, so I'm not going to put any points into them because they're never going to come up. And I'm going to invest in the most heavily used skills to be effective.
Yeah.
Or you have to resign yourself to, I'm not going to be as effective because I wanted to be more flavorful and more unique.
I think a fair way to do this is like, say to everybody, here's a number of points that you get to add to skills that are never going to be used, but are flavorful for defining what your character's history was, which Shadowrun does, and I think makes it a stronger game system.
Gives you
cool points to say these are spent on skills that you will never really use in a campaign, that are not useful but are flavorful for your character, and if they ever do come up, you'll have points for it.
So there's another way to do that too, and I made a video about this, about Big Eye Small Mouth 2nd Edition, where it would take its skill list, and depending on what genre you're playing, different skills would cost different amounts. And so like the skills that don't come up much are cheap, and the skills that come up a lot are expensive. It has nothing to do with, like, they do this with like demolitions, and electronic and security cost double the amount of points a regular skill does, but they justify that with, that's how hard, because it's a harder skill to learn, not that it's more important to the game. But maybe they should have went with more important to the game.
Yeah. I think either one of those ways of doing it would be good, and definitely would have helped the kind of issue of just like, why did you put 7 points into deduction? We didn't roll deduction once, not a single time.
No, personal grooming. Personal grooming is my, oh god, why? Why is personal grooming and style two different skills?
From a story perspective, but from a gameplay perspective, it doesn't make sense that for every sub-biologist, so I put 10 points into biology. Okay, that's never going to be fucking useful, but when it comes to every other science, even though you're a trained biologist, you're shit, because you only
understand mathematics.
You don't understand basic math, because you didn't put 10 points into mathematics. Yeah. So it's kind of dumb as rocks.
So they do have the education skill, which gives you a basic understanding of all things, right? But it's so the problem that I have with the skills is it's so dependent on what your GM thinks matters. And if you think something matters and the GM doesn't think something matters,
it's never going to come up.
If the GM doesn't realize that there's another sub skill that could be used in place of this, then so many of these things become invalid. And it's so like, it's so deeply ingrained that you have to have everybody in the game has to be so well communicating with each other in order to make characters that are going to feel good, feel effective, and be useful in the campaign.
So we all agree, fuck these skills.
It's too many skills. The thing is that if you remove skills, though, the thing I want to say is that if you remove skills, the game loses like difference in characters.
We just want a different. We just want a different skill system. Is all.
Yeah, it's like I want ways to make my character feel unique without putting a bunch of points into wasted stat in a very stat-heavy game. That's all I want.
Here's the thing. Here's what kills me. Is this skill list that's in this game is almost identical to the skill list in the first edition of the game.
So they didn't update it at all.
So what I want to say, the last thing I want to say about skills is there is a basic skills package that every character has to have, right? Of those skills, very few of them seem to come up in a lot of the adventure modules that I've played of Cyberpunk. So why are those the basic skills? If like those basic skills should be exactly what you said before, the skills that are always going to be useful no matter what campaign you play in.
Exactly.
These are the skills that you're going to need. Those should be the basic skills every character has to start with, and that would solve some of this problem. And then everything else is flavor. We
gotta move on. We gotta move on from skills. I want to talk about items, but before we do that, I want to make sure we have enough time to get to the meat, the heart, the die rolling. And when they, what page is that? So the die rolling is pretty simple. It is, you roll 1d10, and if you roll a 10, you roll again and add that, it explodes. And if you roll a 1, you difficulties that show what kind of difficulty you hit. And that's all well and good, except when there are exceptions, and that doesn't work at all, and that, you know, you know what I mean? Like, if this was the only way to do it, it would be great. But there are two big exceptions, and that's reputation and hacking, or what's it called?
Reputation is the one where you roll a die and you want to roll low.
Yes, instead of high.
Low the value. Instead of high.
Because then the players and the dungeon master are both looking at it, and then they're like, well, the players consistently are able to roll 15s on pretty much everything in the session. So when they roll a 9 or a 10 on their roll ability that they only have a +1 to because they're like rank 1 characters, they fail. But no, they don't, because their role has specific DCs for the actions that they're supposed to take, which are way lower than the average check. But it's just confusing. It's not intuitive.
No, it's not.
If you want to make number big go mean something, then leave number big mean something consistently.
If you're a med tech, add your intelligence to it just like you would with the rest of your skills.
Why wouldn't you? What's the difference?
Bonus.
I literally don't see what the difference is. There's no reason not to do it. I can't understand why.
Any stat, I think it's 6, right? 6 is the number that you can start with at maximum starting. So, but you can only start with a 4 in your roll ability. So they wanted to give some kind of credence to that. It makes
how many? I'm gonna say it again. How many editions have there been of Cyberpunk? Why isn't this fixed? This seems weird, and it makes me angry.
Yeah, I agree that it could be streamlined better, or it could be like added depth, add more depth.
I'm gonna get canceled again for saying that I still like Cyberpunk's rolling system better than Cypher's.
All right,
get me. Rage bait.
I do actually like I like both. I like Cyber System. I do like Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk's a good game, but it takes a lot more effort to run and play this game than a lot of others.
So when it comes to the base mechanic of roll 1d10, add stat plus skill, hit DC, I love that. I think it's simple. I think it's intuitive. I think everybody can do that. And if that was consistent,
everything, yeah,
I would be singing a different story. But they somehow fucked it up, and it angers me.
They had an all right rolling system, and then they decided to add unnecessarily like convoluted. Like, why change it? Really, I don't see the real reason to. I don't think it would change the balance of the game if they just decided to make it all work the same way.
So let's talk about equipment now. We can talk about cyberware, we can talk about guns, we can talk about whatever you want under equipment.
I think it suffers from the same problem that you talked about during Cypher of sameness. A gun is a gun is a gun. Like if you get a pistol or a heavy pistol, the only difference is medium,
how
heavy,
much damage it does and
small.
how many times you can shoot.
And how many times you can shoot. Yeah, that's really the only thing. There's no like games. I think even old Cyberpunk games and Shadowrun games all had a vast variety of weapons that did all different things.
Yeah, for such a
pieces.
combat-focused game, the equipment really doesn't have
It's
enough
very
variance, and that's kind of sad.
It's very streamlined. So if you want a sniper rifle, but you want the sniper rifle to have like a silencer on it and this specific type of scope and a smart gun link to go to the back of your head, which is like how you do it in the Cyberpunk video game, you can't really do that because everything's the same. And unless you have a tech on your team, good luck getting all of the customizations to work well with each other, because you only have so many slots to put everything in, the expensive slots to customize your weapons. To get that customization, it feels lacking, just super lacking.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in previous versions of this game, they would actually name each gun. There was like 9 different pistols, and they were all made by different companies and had slightly different stats. And
exactly. Same thing with Shadowrun. They both had this competition between them to like have the coolest, and then each edition had like multiple updated books that would come out of like, here's the Malorian Arms gun manual that has all the different parts and things that you could use to customize those kind of guns, and then here's one for XYZ different brand, and they don't have that anymore. And same thing even with the cyberware. I think the cyberware got very generic and very streamlined, so that it doesn't feel as impactful. There's only a certain number of cyberware that everybody's gonna want, and then everything else, especially because empathy lowers so quickly, everything else is going to be like thrown to the wayside.
I want to say something really quick. For a game called Cyberpunk, I was expecting a lot more interesting stuff with the cyberware than what I got when I started playing. Yeah. I was like, if this is such a core part of the world, if this is such a core part of the gameplay, I was really expecting this to be like a really deeply fleshed out part of the system that had a lot of like malleability and like different options and variants. And it was really underwhelming when I started playing, to the point where I was like, I really don't care about having cybernetics at all, because the cost is so high and it's just another stat increase. It doesn't feel like it does much.
It's not even a stat increase.
It's just stat increase.
Most of the time it doesn't even give you a stat increase, which is, I think, is weird. Like, there's some that give you body increases, stat increases the body, right? Like, I think certain, like,
most of it is like, give you +1 to this thing, give you this thing,
+1
this
to
thing.
It'll give you like a +1 to shoot, right? But even then, sometimes it doesn't even do that. It'll just say like you
+2 to spot, +2 to fashion, blah blah blah.
Further, so you get a +2 to first aid because you have a med scanner implanted in your arm. But it's like, it's very, very simplified, very streamlined, and it doesn't seem to give you that much of an edge in any way. Even the Sandivastans and the cool things that everybody sees in the video games and in the show doesn't really do much for you in the game.
I want to chime in here. I want to say something positive. First off, I like the fact that there are nested equipment, as in you get a cyber socket, and that their cyber eye socket can have different pieces of cyberware in it. I think that kind of thing is cool. At a negative side, to the sameness of everything, the one thing that they didn't do sameness for is fashion, where you could buy street fashion or business fashion or this kind of fashion or that kind of fashion. Like, they put a lot of different kinds of fashion that you can buy, but there's no difference between them. They don't give you benefits. They just cost more money. There's just a difference in cost. And why would you just not buy if it doesn't give you
the cheapest stuff?
You should. All of these types of clothing should have like some sort of benefit. Like, +1 when interacting with these people, or +2 when interacting with those, or a -1 when interacting with that gang.
It literally gives you a bonus to your fashion stat or whatever, like street fashion and style or whatever.
Yeah, wardrobe and style.
Yeah, wardrobe and style.
How many additions? How many additions has this been in? And these guys haven't figured this stuff out.
I will. The one thing I will say is a positive as far as the cyberware is concerned is that I do think that depending on the type of character you're making, there is a cyberware suite for that character that will make them, you know, maybe better at doing the things they want to do. Except for there's not a real way to play a character who doesn't have any cyberware, which is something Sasha brought up to me before. In like Shadowrun, you can play somebody who's completely no cyberware, no bioware, no nothing, and still be as effective as everybody else in the game. But if you're taking the stance that you're not going to use cyberware in this game, you're almost at a marked disadvantage.
Yeah, like I tried to play a character that didn't use any cyberware. I literally only picked cyberware for the aesthetic. I was like, Snake Lady. I'm picking snake aesthetic cyberware. And I mean, it feels rough. Like, it helped that I made her like kind of a non-combatant, but the game really pushes you to use cyberware. And I don't, and I imagine that it would be like, there is no mechanic in the game to reward you for not using cyberware. There's no equivalent. So it's like, if you're not using cyberware, eventually, especially when you get into higher tiers of play, you're just going to be at a marked disadvantage. So you're going to have to use cyberware, or you're just going to be bad. Like, there should be some sort of offset. Like, if you don't use cyberware, not just you don't go as crazy, but like, there are other bonuses that you get, like other skills that you can have access to, maybe, because it's a very skill heavy game, that are useful, that are like, because you don't have cyberware, you can do specific things that people who have cyberware can't do.
Kids and animals don't immediately run from you or something like that, right?
Or like, yeah, the empathy thing is there, but make that more of a spotlight, right?
Yeah, make it
or like, yeah, make it more of a spotlight in like, maybe if you have a bunch of cyberware, you can't use cool skills, like, except for like trying to intimidate somebody. Like, people aren't calmed down by a persuasive giant Borg robot.
You mean empathy skills?
Empathy skills, like, yeah, it should be significantly harder to use empathy skills.
We're running out of time. We gotta go. Wargiz says he's disappointed that you can't really hack people by looking at them like in the video game. Yeah, I think if they did more video game kind of stuff in here, that would work. We need to go to one other thing, though. We need to say one good thing, the thing we like the most about this game. I guess I'll go first. And the thing I like most about this game is all of the world building. The world building's fantastic. All of the stuff that happened in the timelines and the stories, it's all fantastic. I love all of that. I think it's really a really good story. Tarek?
I agree with you 100% that the story is amazing. I am not as hard on the skill system and like the system overall, as long as you have. I think it can be an amazing game and amazingly like fun and work very well if you have the right group playing. It will be a blast. You have to have people who are going to really buy in, who really know how the system works, and are communicating ahead of time with what the story you're trying to tell is. And if you do that, this can be one of the most fun games, run and gun games you'll ever play in your life.
My turn?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I really like the anime. No, Corey, you said the thing that I was gonna say. I like the world building, so it kind of feels like a cop out to say that.
No, it's fine. No, you can agree with me. I'm a genius. I know.
I do. When I say I like the anime, I mean that I like the kind of stories that can be born from Cyberpunk. I think it lends itself really well to storytelling. I just like. Not sure that. How do I put this? I think that is really the main thing that I like about Cyberpunk, and I think that maybe I like that. I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. You get it. I like the narrative, and I have some issues with the game.
We need a Cyberpunk game with different rules than this, is what we need.
That's kind of it. I kind of don't like the game. I kind of like the story, and I don't like the game that's attached to it. The story's great though, super cool.
Okay, we're gonna rate this S through F. S being the highest, so it's S, A, B, C, D, and F. To me, it's low C. Like, it's a C rank game if I ever saw one.
I wouldn't say higher than C, that's for sure.
I am going to break the mold here, and I think it's either B for me, or like I'd say it's like a B plus.
B plus. Yeah. Well, what do you think, Sasha? 2 against 1?
I think it's gotta be a C because I'm leaning like C or even D.
If y'all like, are going C minus,
because the story is like B, a really small part of the role playing game. If that's the only thing that is kind of good with it,
I put Legend of the Five Rings 5th edition in C because the rules need a lot of work, but the story's fantastic.
And I love Legend of the Five Rings way more than I liked Cyberpunk. So, yeah, I guess for me, then, it would have to be a D.
It's a C. It's a C.
So then,
we're putting it at C rank. Crucify me online. Invite me to another podcast where I'll defend this. All right.
If the devs of Cyberpunk are watching this, I'm not sorry.
If the devs of Cyberpunk are watching this, I love your game system and I love your world. I wish it was a better edition.
Oh yeah, no. If the devs are watching, hire me. That's what I want.
Hire us. We can. We'll make this game fantastic.
I love going into rules.
Pizza, and we'll put game mechanics.
We will churn out a new edition faster than you can sneeze, man. Like,
yeah. I love.
By the way, guys, I really want to make a video series where we make new rules for the Legend of the Five Rings 5th edition game and create it how we want to create it. I think that would be a fun endeavor. And I know both of you are probably into that. And I'm sure people out there would be like, yes, please.
You know, I'm so into that, but knowing 3 people with different ideas on rules, someone's going to make me mad, and then I'm going to throw a banana at you through the camera.
Well, yeah, but that's fine. We'll.
You're in the same room with me. If I throw a banana, it's going to beam you in the face.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if we all have different opinions and approaches, then coming together, we're going to create a better system because we're going to be more inclusive of a bunch of different perspectives.
That's the hope. That's the hope. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching Wargiz Faghorn. We love you and we love talking to our audience. Next week, we're doing Courts of Stone. I think it's probably just going to be me and Tarek doing Courts of Stone. That's the winner of our poll. And we hope to see you next time for that. From Sasha, Tarek, my name is Corey. Go roll some dice.
Bye, everybody.